Hello, welcome to Move Younger. I'm Kathy Hale. Move Younger is about the three elements of aging well: how we move, what we eat, and how we deal with stress. Today, my guest is Aaron Lerner, and Aaron is a certified personal trainer and health coach. And after 15 years of training, he decided to shift his focus from coaching and counseling to addressing the reason clients failed in their goals and decided to create the 5 pillars of wellness to guide them through. So, welcome to Move Younger, and I'm so excited to learn more about this.
I'm so excited to be here and get to talk to you because for those of us who are a few years behind you, I kind of see you as like one of the original influencers before that was
Oh,
even a thing. So the fact that I get to
thank
talk,
you.
the fact that you've done, you've had numerous restaurants and you've been a teacher and a dancer and you were influencing people, like I said, before that was even a thing. So I'm thrilled to have the chance to get to have this conversation with you. So outside of that, you start wherever you want. We'll just take it from there.
I,
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm kind of the same.
thank you. That was a big surprise.
Yeah,
I
no,
accept the compliment.
well, it's the truth. So for those that don't know, you've been doing this for a long time, and we're kind of on the. You've been a health leader for many years in Kansas City. So
So, the National Council on Strength and Fitness lists these reasons why people fail to meet fitness and weight loss goals: setting unrealistic goals, failing to establish short term goals, comparing oneself to other people, negative thinking, having an inadequate total game plan, scheduling priority issues, failing to be informed. And your approach really takes these failures and makes a new way for them to go.
I was just going to say that my approach was rooted in a lot of those things that you just mentioned. For example, the first one, setting unrealistic goals. After 15 years, you have the opportunity to work with hundreds and hundreds of different people, and it's more common that there is often a disconnect between what a person has visualized in their mind in terms of what it is that they want from a physical perspective, but
Mm-hmm.
the lifestyle that they're leading is so incongruent with that mental picture. They want to keep doing what they've always done, yet wind up on the cover of GQ magazine, and it's a recipe for failure because to have those types of expectations without living the lifestyle that would be required to get there is a setup for failure. What they
Mm-hmm.
learn very quickly is that the motivation just isn't enough.
Have you worked primarily with men, or is it 50-50 men, women, or?
That's a good question. I over the years, everything
Mm-hmm.
from high school athletes
Mm-hmm.
to some professional athletes, a few Chiefs cheerleaders, some other professional athletes. But then on the other end of the spectrum, I had a woman that was a 92-year-old Holocaust survivor, and everything in between. Most of which came in with the primary objective of losing body fat, which is more often than not the most common reason to seek help because so many of us are struggling in that area.
Well, I was going to say my experience with Pilates
Yeah, yeah.
was that women are very self-critical, men not
Mm-hmm.
so much.
Mm-hmm.
So they were very different kind of clients for me, men versus women, even though we were all doing the same thing.
Right.
And I found it eye-opening that women were so self-critical, and I began to say to them, "Well, you have a beautiful back. You have beautiful arms, or whatever," because they would just focus on their abs, their thighs, glutes, just all the
Right.
things they didn't like.
Right. And you.
So what made me think of this was when you talked about people being frustrated about not reaching their goals and their goals being unrealistic. And it's just
Right.
sometimes you can't get those thighs necessarily that you're dreaming of. Honor your body.
Right. You bring up some really great points there. You're right. There's definitely a difference between men and women in terms of the psychology of it, and for that reason, I do think that women tend to be a little bit more open to the notion of coaching versus training, if you
Mhm.
will. I do have some men that I'm working with. It's harder to wrap their mind around why coaching could be beneficial for them versus just why don't we get in the gym
Yeah.
and throw some weights around, get our sweat on and get this done.
Hmm.
And there's nothing
Great.
wrong with that. It's just I don't think it was long-term success, which is really what we're going for is the long term.
Right. And that's what I really liked is because I also feel like what's the big picture? The big picture
Right.
is where you move, like you're moving into health. You're moving forward for a reason. You're not just trying to look like a Kardashian, hopefully, if
Yes.
you're a woman or I don't know the male counter of that, but a movie star,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
It's really
Same.
looking to be what would be best for you and your lifestyle and, and what you're for your own personal body.
Right. And
So,
we've narrowed that focus down so much to just physical appearance that
mhm.
in the process of doing that, we've almost lost sight of what it is that we're really doing, which is trying to achieve health, better
Right.
better better health. That's that may for some that may require a some the the number on the scale to come down some. And this is one of the things that I think is really important is that when people do that, they're solely focused on the outcome.
Right.
And that's one of the first things that I try to really break down with clients is that we can't be exclusively outcome focused. I had a client recently tell me that she wanted to be a very specific number. I want to be, this isn't it, but I want to be 155 pounds.
Hmm.
And that's great. Except that's the outcome. But it's the processes, it's the systems that need to
Exactly.
be put in place, and being exclusively focused on the outcome. That's where a lot of people are running into to what I refer to as the valley of disappointment, and
Hmm. I
that
like
is
that.
where that is where goals go to die. And part of the reason why that is it's this linear. We've got results and we've got time, and when people start exercise, this is what's happened so commonly with people who are doing New Year's resolutions. They're like, okay, come January 1st, I'm going to get in the gym, and I expect my progress to be very linear.
Yes.
Okay, when in
Yes.
reality, it's very slow and it's
Yes.
very drawn out, and
Yes.
so this gap, eventually they'll intersect, but it's this gap right here where they're not getting the results that they want
Did that
quickly
say
in
the valley of disappointment in the gap?
valley of disappointment. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's getting trapped in there. That again, it's not linear like they think.
Hmm.
There's that arc, and it's not a fast process. In the same way that somebody doesn't wake up, one morning and look in the mirror and go, "Oh my God, I gained 30 pounds overnight." No, it's almost imperceptible. I mean, it's
Yes.
imperceptible.
Yes. In many ways, health is
And that,
imperceptible because you're not really paying attention in the
hmm
way that we should, I think. I totally agree with that. And people also sometimes have that happen with their aging too. They'll, you know, like when did this happen? And
yeah, yeah, and
they're
that's
eating, stress eating or something. But
exactly, and that's one of the primary things that I try to impart upon clients, right from the get go. And this is part of our outline. Is see that the four steps. The first one is that, meaningful change does not require radical change. And
yes,
so many people they want to get started and they're in such a rush that they want to go run 5 miles today, and they want to, you know, do
yes,
all these things to hurry up the process. And really, that's more often than not, that's simply setting them up for failure, because again, then they're back to that linear expectations.
yeah.
I've been running 5 miles a day every day for the last 3 weeks. Why aren't I changing? Well, you're going to burn out, and that's not going to lead you
And it can
to
be other things. Like it could
mm,
be their diet, it could be their sleep, it could be the
right.
stress levels that they're dealing with. Maybe they have some personal family crisis going on or whatever. There's so many
Yeah.
things that we just sort of compartmentalize, like, but I'm doing the 5 miles.
Right.
It's a
Right.
it's a fail. I can't get there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and so many of these things are interconnected, which is the reason that's important is because the interconnectedness between these pillars. For example, if it's very, very unlikely that somebody who is focusing on their physical fitness or physical wealth, because again, these pillars are forms of wealth, I call it.
Really love the physical wealth. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very well. I use two terms to try to get people to shift their paradigms. One is wealth,
Hmm.
because in this country, when we talk about wealth,
Yeah, money.
it's
Yeah, a
money,
bank
money.
account. Yeah, that like yeah, I
Yeah,
don't have to worry about my bills or whatever. Yes.
exactly. And so we've become so focused, and that's just financial. So
Hmm.
what wealth is one word I use, and then fitness is the other. Because with fitness, people immediately go to physical. With wealth,
Hmm.
they go to money. But if you look at these pillars as being both forms of wealth and or fitness, you've got time, you've got relationships, you've got the mental, the physical, and the financial. And so
Okay.
much of our time has been spent focusing on the financial that the other ones get sacrificed in a pursuit of trying to, uh, accumulate as much money as possible. And so if you let's say you reach that goal, let's say you reach a point, your goal is to be a millionaire by the time you're 40. You hit that goal, but in the process of doing it, you have spent 80 hours a week,
Have high
abandoned
blood
away.
pressure.
Oh, yes, away from your family. So your relationship, you're poor in your relationship,
Yeah.
column. Your time is totally consumed in this pursuit of finances. So you're poor
Uh-huh.
in your time column. Your physical health has suffered, and the obvious interconnectedness between the mental and the physical. So you may have achieved that and be financially wealthy, but you
Hmm.
are time poor, relationship poor, mentally poor, and physically poor. Is it worth it?
Yes, I love this because I love it. When you go through these, do you have them kind of rate where they are at the beginning of each one, or write out a definition?
I do. In fact, there's a great thing that's free, and anybody can do it.
Hmm.
I should say before I send anybody that wants to take this, that these ideas are not my own. These are built on these come from the shoulders of people much smarter than I am. So, um, but one of them is there's a well. It's the website is wealthscorequiz.com. It's all one word, wealth score quiz, and it
Hmm.
will actually allow you to ask, I think, 4 or 5 questions from each of those 5 categories to rank yourself to see where you're at, and it will break it down for you by category. And I think it's the highest score is 100,
Hmm.
but you can see where you're thriving, and you can see where you are struggling, where you're again
Yeah.
you're you're poor, the areas
Yeah.
that you're poor. So that's what I would recommend for anybody that wants to see that. It's quick, it's easy, and it does a really great job
Okay,
of
I'll include that in the back notes. I'll make
yeah.
sure I didn't have a pen.
Oh,
I
that's
had the
okay.
day today.
Yeah,
It's frozen tea and all kinds of things. I love that. So, well, let's see. Do we want to discuss the 4 steps, or go? I'd like to actually just do a little bit more breakdown of maybe the extremes of each of the 5 pillars. So, financial, like you said, it's easy for people to just see that as money, but
right.
that fine. I think as Americans, maybe I'll say as Americans, I don't want to speak for other countries, but I
Hmm.
feel like we do just put financial as having money in the bank and that
Yes.
kind of thing. Whereas, if I remember, so my parents grew up in the Depression, so
Uh-huh.
I didn't have I heard about what they had to go through, and they've had very different experiences. One was in a city, one was on a farm, and I remember when I had kids, and I was a single mom, so I was pretty broke. But I thought, you guys have so much more than I did. And I thought,
Yeah.
and I had so much more than my parents did. So I always had this kind of awareness. It wasn't like they did a woe is me
Hmm.
kind of thing. It was just sort of their life. It was just their experience. And
Yes. And I think that's another point that I think is important that we just don't think about. Um, what the food fads were.
oh,
When I was coming up, we were taught it was all about low fat,
low fat.
no fat. If you bought a box of ice cream of the chocolate fudge bars and it said healthy choice on it,
Yeah.
that was they must be healthy.
Yeah.
We were the products of low fat, no fat. Let's see if
When the low fat, they took it away, but there was one that anal leakage was the byproduct of it. And I thought, why are they encouraging people to eat this?
yeah, And so the time that we came up with really
Mhm.
shapes and forms so many of the beliefs that we have around food.
Yes.
And, you know, think about what it was like before there was a microwave.
Yeah.
You watch these shows, I think it's a History Channel, but they talk about the advent of the Swanson frozen dinner and how that
Yeah.
changed so many things. And what it did was, you know, people used to cook.
Yeah. Yes.
You have a better recollection of maybe, you know, a time where, like you said, like your parents cooked. There
Oh
was
yeah,
no,
yeah, for
you
sure.
know, there was
I grew
no,
up before Swanson's dinners, so
yeah,
my brothers were I don't know how old they were. I was the next youngest, so but they bought some TV dinners and were just so excited about it. My dad was really mad, like your mom's just cooked a great meal and you want to eat
right,
stuff in a tin or whatever it was. I probably was
right.
10 at that time.
Right. So for the young parents of today, how are you influenced and how is that going to
Yeah.
trickle down to what you're teaching your kids? So when I was in
Hmm.
school, we had the food pyramid. Now we know just how insane that actually was, how backwards
Right.
that actually was.
Right.
But you know, people have motivations and there's reasons why they want to intentionally misinform or mislead the public, and that's to sell products.
So we're really talking about the financial and physical right now, and three of the five pillars. Can I talk
Yeah.
financial, time, and physical right now? Because there's several factors with those as far as growing up that can
Hmm.
affect you. One would be that convenience. Fast food was not something that was rare when I was a kid.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
remember when McDonald's came around, but there were nine of us, so we weren't doing it anyway.
Yeah.
But by the time my kids, you know, working mom doing things, I did like run through a drive-through and things like that. So then you have this thing about how much money food costs and
Hmm.
what's healthy and what's fast. So you have those decisions are affecting your financial, your time, and your physical. And you
Right.
don't really think, is this the best food for me, helping my physical body? And maybe it's better to spend money on food that helps my physical body as opposed to the cheapest option that saves me time. And what,
Right.
because those choices on upping the value of the financial and the physical to something that's healthier,
Hmm.
and feed your body and maybe cost a little more would also benefit your time later on.
Yes.
It
Yes.
might
So
take more
yeah.
time now, but later on. So it's not being the short sighted, like you said, uh, you know, what 45-day goal or whatever it was.
Hmm.
It's like really thinking, what's the long picture of this?
Yeah.
Is really,
Yeah.
which I think it's, this is so interesting to me because I feel like now people are not really thinking. The lifestyle is so hard physically on us. We
Hmm.
drive, we sit, things like that. We don't move just naturally like we would have in times past. And we have different social norms also because
Hmm.
everything's online and, especially with COVID. And so
Hmm.
there's more health issues that are also environmentally related,
Yeah.
that are factors that are affecting people younger than they
Right.
did like when
Oh
I
yeah.
was
Absolutely.
younger.
Yeah. Absolutely. You don't have to go too far back to see the changes that you're talking about. You know, really, really dramatic changes.
Right,
So the importance of the interconnectedness of all these. How's your financial fitness compared to your
yeah,
physical? Because
right,
without them, you know, you're poor in that area.
right.
And so the richest person in the world who has poor health and nobody who likes them is not a wealthy person in my book.
And I think also the social relationships and mental. So if you think about those two, if you look at those two, so the social relationships we've been shown in blue zones and different studies,
Right.
and COVID brought this out how we need people, and I
Yeah.
think it's just becoming more and more apparent with just so much happening, how much we need to be together. How
Right.
much we need to have know your neighbors and have friends and just have community and
Yeah.
then and that kind of score would be interesting to see for everyone too. And then gosh, I mean the mental toll of maybe the last 5 years or
Right.
longer, that the toll that COVID took on so many people, both
Mhm.
physically and everything. So I find this really interesting.
Yeah.
It's a great
Y-
base to begin and
Yeah.
find
And
your
another
personal score, then go forward. Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing that I found to be super interesting is that of those five types of wealth, what I found that is true, I haven't found anything where anybody has said that when they near the end of their life, the things that mattered the most to them were how they spent their time. Was it purposeful? Did they have were they loved, and
Mhm.
did they have people that they loved, and were they healthy in the final season, the final chapter of one's life?
Yeah.
Never, never,
Never.
never.
Unless you're Scrooge, maybe. I don't know, but he has.
Yeah, because you can't take it with it. You take it
Yeah, you
with you.
can't. Yeah,
So
that's an
yeah,
impossibility.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
I think that's really true. And there's also recently, because I've been listening to a lot of and reading a lot of things on the developments on maintaining health. So not just longevity, but
Mhm.
having, the point isn't to live to be 100, but to live well.
Right.
So right now, the last 20 years of life often are on medication and
Yeah.
compromised life. And
Yes.
it doesn't have to be that way, but it's better if you start younger. I mean, I think
Right.
one should be focusing on these things from 30 on, if not, your whole life.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so it's the idea is to have great scores in all five of these so that you age well and
Mhm.
not age simply.
Right.
You don't just move forward and have a long life, but you're maybe bedridden for the last 10 years and not able to actually do things the 10 years before that. It's like what would be a high physical score that like wealth would build during
Uh-huh.
your life,
Yeah.
accumulate just like you would your savings
Yeah. Yeah.
account or your investments or anything like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And the way we manage it is so different. I don't know how many people you know that just go out and spend money without ever checking their bank account. That would not be a good strategy. And so, another thing is that what gets measured gets
Hmm.
managed,
Yeah.
and we don't measure our health in the same way that we do our bank accounts. And
Right.
so, how
I
do we
thought that
manage?
was great.
Yeah, what I tell people is that so many of them that want to start with the weight loss.
Right.
And so if you're solely focused on the outcome and not the process,
Mhm.
you're far less likely to get there. And while that may be a reasonable goal and maybe a way to improve your health, if you're going to do that, then I hope you're checking your body weight daily, because like I said, that doesn't get measured doesn't get managed. And some people are horrified by that thought. And I've got kind of a funny story about that, which is why I'm smiling, because part of my expertise that comes from my own personal experience.
Mhm.
There was a time in my life where I let my own body weight health get very low score. I was struggling. I probably put on at least 30 pounds, because 30 pounds is what I lost. And the way that I did it was through measuring. So I had to get on the scale daily to see
Mhm.
if what I was doing was causing things to go in the right direction, or was it moving it in the wrong direction. And when you manage it like that, if you see that the scale's gone up, a pound for 3 days in a row, you're going to
Uh-huh.
start to question your actions far
Yeah.
more than you are if you're not even aware of it. And so that's is what got me started. I had great personal success with that and wound up losing 30 pounds of body fat. Then I thought, okay, that number alone no longer is telling that I've lost that body fat. So now what I need to do is I need to see where what the breakdown of that number actually is, because they've got these great scales that measure bone
Yeah.
mass and lean muscle mass and body fat and water
And
and
visceral fat and
visceral
water. Yeah.
fat. Yeah. And so what happened was I bought myself one of those scales because my body weight was starting to go back up, but I was spending quite a bit more time in the gym. So I knew I was putting on lean muscle mass, but I
Hmm.
didn't know how much. And I was having a hard time rationalizing without having that information. You know that you're putting on some lean muscle, but you can't act as though you're not also at the same time, putting on a few pounds of body fat too. So you need to measure that. Well, if you were to track your body weight alone for 5 days in a row, the chances of you getting the exact same number any one of those 5 days is
Hmm.
very, very low. Like, we're dynamic, we're constantly changing. Um,
Right.
and so then when I broke it down, where is this number coming from? What is affecting this number? I stopped managing daily
Uh-huh.
because those things move so slowly that I thought, okay, I'll go to once a week.
Yeah.
And as soon as I made that switch, what do you think happened? I
Oh, you
less
started
management,
freaking out?
less measurement. It got away from me, and so it got away from me to the point where I put on another 15, 20 pounds of body fat that I had to then put that scale aside and say that we're going back to the number because that needs to come down, and then we
Yeah.
can bring it back once it's back under control. I would recommend if a person's overweight or their primary
Mhm.
objective is to lose body fat, I think you can work with just that number
Yeah.
because that
Just your weight, just a
just the
single
way
weight number. Yes.
just the way.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then once you get to a place where you're comfortable, then I think we can make that switch to find out where the numbers are. But I would do that every now and again and continue to measure the body weight alone. It keeps it from getting out of control.
I think also everybody's in a different place, and sometimes we can get so bothered by
Hmm.
too much information. It's like all I want to know is this. And so I think sometimes simpler steps are better,
Yes.
especially if it all feels overwhelming, because it won't do. I was thinking of the mental balance for this. It's like if you're just kind of saying, "Oh, how did I gain this? What happened?" Or
Right.
whatever it is, it's all just, are you moving forward? Or are you standing still? you know
And
yeah.
that's another huge thing that people really have to not only, they intellectually they understand that. Emotionally they struggle with it
Hmm.
because intellectually they get that, but then when it comes down to it, they want that linear
Yeah.
success. And when it starts to move too slow for them, they're just like, this isn't working.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah. Yeah.
I give up. Hence the why the gyms clear out by February. I tell my clients we're looking to we're looking to make micro changes. I mean, we're
Hmm.
talking to, like a 0.5% to 1%. If we can
Hmm.
improve just that much, that is going to lead to long-term success versus trying to rapidly,
Right.
hurry up and get this done. And then because there is no finish line. So what if you do? So let's say your goal weight's 185 pounds and you get there. Great. We'll have a celebration. And then tomorrow you wake up at 187 and it's like, we're done, you know?
Well, yeah. Can I have a bite began because of working with clients on this 28-day plan to have them change their diet, to eat healthier. And
Yeah.
I always feel like food shouldn't be math. I'm not saying someone shouldn't count calories, but I feel like count the food itself more. Like, if that is an organic tomato, there's more nutrition in it. You're going to feel full faster. It's something I saw all the time with people buying our food. I'm so full, but I feel so good.
Right.
It's actually feeding you. You're not just consuming calories,
Yes,
and
and
that's a
that's so
hard one to
important.
break on people.
Yeah, and if we can break them out of that outcome based mindset
Hmm.
and just notice how you're feeling when when you eat this food, this high quality food. How what is that doing for your mental state? Again, I tell people it's going to take some time to start to see results with that slow curve, but you're going to feel better
Yeah,
immediately. The body was designed to move.
the body was
Another
designed to move. Yeah,
and one thing I've told people for years is that first law of physics, a body at rest tends to stay at rest. A body in
yeah,
motion tends to stay in motion. And so the hardest part is getting that pendulum to when it's over here at the I'm not
yeah,
doing anything because nothing has worked to try to get that slowly to shift that momentum. And
yeah.
that's one of the hardest parts because when you're starting at rest to
Hmm.
start that motion, it's hard to create that habit. And so that's where the focus lies on. Like you said, people are bombarded with information from every single avenue that exists, and it's overstimulation. They don't know what to believe, and they don't know what to think, and a lot of them think they're doing well, they're doing the right thing when they're just misinformed, and it's not their fault. Because again,
One.
how do you navigate this world of intentional misleading and marketing and misinformation? It's what got us here.
Yeah.
And so, I between teaching English to high schoolers for 10 years and teaching fitness for 15, yeah, I see myself as an educator more than
Yes.
anything else to help wade through this sea of misinformation that has gotten us to where we are.
And it's really hard to combat,
Yeah.
because we have to fight the media, so to speak.
Yep.
I remember when I would do grocery store tours with Pilates clients, and we would go through, and I would just try to break it down. Um,
Yeah.
this means this means that, and try to give them easy guidelines. And I realized it was a little overwhelming, but one of the things that I liked doing was going to the yogurt aisle because at the time, Activia
Yep.
was the
Oh yeah, yeah,
big
yeah, yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And they kept saying, "But isn't this the one I should eat?" And I said, "That's the one they want you to eat." But
Right.
all
Right.
yogurt does the same thing.
They're experts at what they're doing. A lot of
Mhm.
people don't know this, but you and I remember when you used to be able to advertise cigarettes
Oh
on
yeah.
TV. There were, magazines, TV, billboards. Remember the Marlboro Man and Joe
Oh yeah.
Camel, all those campaign ads that worked. Well, when they nixed that, and you could, and big tobacco couldn't market in the same way that they used
Yeah.
to. Those people didn't just those marketers, those expert marketers didn't die off. What they
Yeah.
did was they went from big tobacco from Philip Morris to Nestle and
Mhm.
PepsiCo and Kraft Heinz and Kellogg,
And
the largest processed food producers, and they're using the same marketing tactics to convince you that while this breakfast cereal may have 32 grams of sugar in it, don't look at that because it's high in fiber.
yeah.
We're gonna put that, we're gonna put that next to Toucan
And at the
Sam.
same time saying bread is bad when there's this amazing baker and at the Brookside Farmers Market here, and the milling's good, the bread's amazing, it has fiber. It's
You
like
got it. You
it's
got
like a good bread. That's better as a fiber source than
yeah.
whatever that cereal
Can we give
is.
can we give Johnny Bakes a quick plug? Is that who you're talking
Oh
about?
yeah, I'm giving Johnny Bakes.
Yeah, because he's outstanding. He's outstanding. His attention to detail.
Amazing.
And again,
Amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're not talking Wonder white bread. This is a
Yes.
totally type of thing. And I don't need to tell you this. You did such great work. I mean, I was a frequent customer of Can I Have a Bite. It was convenient, and I knew that the ingredients were good, and they
Yeah.
were. I know that you were working with the farmers from the farmers
Uh,
market, and that's a
I'll say the financial part of it was
yeah.
a little hard because it was a costly item to produce.
Yeah, yeah, and health, that's the other thing. Health is not cheap.
Health is not cheap, but at the same time, if you spend the money and the time to make good food and food that feeds your body, you won't have the health expenses of
Right.
endless doctor visits and whatever is happening with healthcare for so many people, and they keep taking away even more coverage as it is.
Similar in that like I'm at the point where I try to buy as much of the food I eat as I can from the farmers market.
Yes.
I have to supplement with certain things that I can't get there to maybe make a meal. I don't want to rehash one of your previous episodes, but I remember you talking about just how you got into
Yeah.
really great ingredients. And it was at a time when, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was at a time where you didn't have a ton of money. And I remember you mentioned beans,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
the versatility of
The
beans and
versatility of beans. Yeah.
what you can do with that. I load up on beans all the time
Yeah.
at Trader Joe's, and they cost between 88 cents and $1.19. And so it can be done. I think, again, it just goes back to the education piece.
I plan on doing something that teaches how to simply prepare food. But anyway, that's digressing. But yes, it is. I mean, it's so much. I always told people when I taught cooking, I'm a lazy cook. I,
Yeah.
I like. I don't want to go through, the Julia Child everything. I think it's great to do, but most of the time I'm just hungry and I'm on the go and I have to get things, and so I try to find real fast ways, but to have the most flavor as possible. So
Yeah.
that's my shtick on food. But I'll work on that.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring it all back to the five. So we talked about like measuring financial and physical; those are easier,
Hmm.
um, and even time. But like the social or your relationships and your mental, how do you ask people to measure those? How do you work with those?
Well, so every client was, to even be considered, there's a pretty extensive and
Uh-huh.
as they go through it, it covers all of those sections. It starts with assessing how you know your level of stress, and then it really narrows its focus to their physical wellness and their social wellness, their emotional wellness, their nutritional wellness, spiritual wellness, intellectual wellness, to try to create a snapshot in terms of where they
Uh-huh.
are. And so that's where I start. And then once I've got that, we start to, instead of telling them what to do, or just leaving them to be victims of these never-ending marketing campaigns, then where can we look for little tiny places to make micro changes
Yeah.
that will over time add up? One of the, if you were to board a plane in Los Angeles that was bound for New York City, one of the important points here is that that's a cross country trip. So
Right.
it's the longest trip you can possibly take staying within the country, meaning it's a long
Right.
time, not a short time. If the pilot of that plane took off from Los Angeles and just changed the heading of the airplane 3.5 degrees, just 3.5 degrees to the south, that plane would wind up landing in Washington D.C. And so it's just almost imperceptible. You wouldn't notice it, but 3.5 degree change in the heading of the plane would wind you up in a totally different place than
Uh,
where you were
huh.
going. And so the reason I use that is
Very
because right
interesting.
now, so many people are on a plane that's bound to the destination of obesity and hypertension and
Good.
diabetes. 3.5%. We're looking at that 1% change that
Yeah.
we can make gradually. That's going to wind us in a totally different destination spot than the one we're headed to. People
Right.
think I can't do this. I give up. But when they break it down and they can wrap their mind around the process, create a system, not don't focus on
Mhm.
the outcome. I've brought I was hypertensive and now my blood pressure's back down to normal.
Mhm.
Um, and so it's no one's going to complain about that more than anything else, to get them to wrap their head around that notion of meaningful change does not need to be radical. In fact, more
Right.
often than not, the ones who have create long lasting sustainable change are just doing 1%. Is one Can you be 1% better this week than you were last week? And
Right.
if that the answer is yes, by the time you go from LA to across the country, you're going to wind up in a totally different
Yeah.
destination than you could stayed the course. And when they think of it like that, then you can see light bulbs go off, and they
It's a
think
great analogy. It's a great
I can do
analogy.
this. Yeah,
I remember when I was studying meditation, and she gave not quite that analogy, but she said, we might not put value in things because we're okay with them right now. But she said, if something happens, like if you injure your foot, all of a sudden you'll just think about your foot all the time.
right,
And then right
right,
after that class, I had a fall on just a crazy silly thing where the surface was painted and it was wet and I didn't realize it, and I had on the wrong shoes and I just slipped, and I had real tight muscle in my low back and in my glute, and I did walking because motion is the lotion,
right.
and I just had to walk with my little hitch, and I just kept saying every step's getting a little bit better, every step's getting a little bit better, and I just kept doing that, and it took a little while things, but that lesson never left me as to,
Yeah,
okay, if that's true, your focus goes on that. And the same thing if weight or anything. Yeah, you're going to focus on it, but just keep moving it forward. Just keep moving it forward. Find how can you change your mind, which I think changing your thoughts is step one for me on all this.
it's
Because if you keep thinking, why can't I lose weight? You need to change it to, how am I changing my weight today?
right, and
Or,
that.
that
Yeah, and
how
that.
am I moving that plane degree really?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really one of the primary difference between coaching and training. A trainer
Mhm.
believes strongly that they serve a purpose, and they're great.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
but
Today is a good day to begin, right?
yeah, it
But to me, what's key is understanding what will drive you to do it. Because I don't like running. I tried it for a while and I just don't. But I know people love it, and I'm a walker. I like
yeah,
walking.
yeah,
I don't like walking when it's hot, so I don't really want to go outside right now. So maybe I'll do
right.
this instead to add my cardio.
You're not behavior that's incongruent with yourself.
Hmm.
is not going to last. If you hate to run, I would not ask you to go out and run.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, because it's not going to work. There's too many other there's too many options to that
So
you
many.
should. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be something that you enjoy.
Yeah. Maybe I think that is kind of the way to identify that seems really important as well to hit those five pillars. You know, we are so rich, thinking of a different way of looking at financial. We are rich with options these days because we could
Yeah.
get an app, we could go to a gym, we could take a class. Gosh, when I
Yes.
started studying Pilates, there was a single class,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
one, and it was
Right.
a mat class. There weren't machines; they were too expensive. It was
Yeah.
a private, expensive lesson. And now, we have apps, we have
Yes.
Pilates everywhere. So we're rich in opportunity
Yes.
to meet these five
Absolutely.
pillars,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
they need someone like you to guide them.
Well, and again, I offer a workout that's tailored to them, but it's
Hmm.
not for me. It's shifted like less about the workout, but helping them understand why they're struggling to get to the gym
Hmm.
consistently, or why they're reaching for unhealthy snacks after a stressful day. And once you can get to the root of that, I think that's the first step
Right.
to real behavior change.
So they're coming to you, and they go through the test, and then you help them identify a plan that
Uh,
they can do on their own,
yes,
rather than
yes,
coming to you. And yeah, which I think is
yeah,
great.
yeah. A lot of them
Really need it.
need a plan, need a sense of accountability, why it hasn't worked for them in the past. It's so individualized. No two people
Mhm.
are the same. And so I do a lot of listening. Listen first and then allow them to hear themselves and be a partner in this process. It's listening and saying, okay, here are some areas that we could make some really minor adjustments and rack up some easy wins early
Mhm.
on, which again shifts that momentum to a place where now it's not even about the outcome, it's about the process. It's this is what I do because it's a part of my identity. I mean, you've been living in the world of health and fitness and quality food for so long that I would venture to guess to say that you probably see that as part of your identity, your core identity.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, for
And
sure.
that's and once you've gotten to that point, there's three layers. There's outcomes, then there's the
Yeah.
processes and systems, and then there's identity. And once
Yeah.
it's become a part of your identity, then you've really made it because now
Mhm.
it's part of your identity, and that's when you really have made it.
That's I even past identity. There's I would say once you hit the place at the top of your peak, I would say, or the curve line
Uh,
where you're hitting your goal. Once you get there, if you've gone through these steps and really found what you need to do for yourself, you feel so much better that it's
yeah,
hard to not do that. And that's
that's right.
different about what you're suggesting, is that it isn't this training for a single thing, but you're looking at what can I do so that I feel great every morning, so that I like how I look, so I like how I move, so I like how I feel, and I am not stressing all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
And that's when you said it's the identity. Is that your identity?
core identity,
Or
the inner,
identity? Yeah,
yeah, and then
yeah,
everything circles,
yeah.
outside that, orbits
It's
that your identity, and if it's not part of your identity,
definitely.
once
I
once it,
actually, just using an example of changing things. I've always loved bread. Bread's altered so much, the flour and the
yeah,
process. So that's what created the whole gluten-free movement, because
right.
people were getting the bloated belly, but it was not gluten. It was the process of the bread making, and it was the
Yep.
alteration. It had to do with chemicals and different things
And
as well. But
yep, the modified wheat.
so
Yeah.
it's not hard to not eat that at
Right.
all. I don't have
Right.
a craving for it ever.
Right.
And
Right.
if by chance, because travel or something, I have to eat something that I wouldn't ordinarily eat, my body doesn't react. I mean, I can tolerate it.
Uh-huh.
Now if I ate it all the time, it would bother me. But
Uh-huh.
so that's where you're building a resiliency in your body by
Right.
doing these things, by really identifying, what do I need to do to
Yes.
meet these different criteria for me, and how do I
Right.
get there
Yeah.
without it.
Yep. And that's hugely important because that's really what it is. It's not
Mhm.
me telling you what to do. It's helping you to identify certain things in your life to help get you there so that you're self-sufficient
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah.
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 So, final question. What advice would you give your younger self?
I think I think it would be to our scoreboard, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
We've been using a broken scoreboard because the scoreboard that we've been looking at, whether we're winning or losing, is only tracking the financial.
Right.
I think that the advice I would tell myself, fitness is not just physical, and
Yeah.
wealth is not just financial.
Yeah.
And if you really want to be a wealthy person, you've got to measure in order to manage. And I would try to look at the five as a interconnected, holistic web. Where if I
Mm-hmm.
was deficient in a couple,
Mm-hmm.
then I would want to focus my attention there. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think the answer to that question would be, how are you financially fit? Are you mentally fit? And or wealthy? And I think that I would spend more time balancing all those things rather than just focusing on the things that I cared the most about.
Uh-huh.
And if I were to have done that, I think that I would have saved myself some headaches along the way. And it's a
Yeah.
lifelong education.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's never too late to start. So if people want to, you mind if I drop my
Oh,
website?
and I'll include it in the links. Thank you.
If anybody wants to find out more, if anybody wants to chat, there's a free 45-minute discovery call. It's at Learner Health Coaching,
Okay.
LERNER healthcoaching.com.
Okay, that's great. Yes,
Yeah.
and I hope everyone checks it out because it's really fascinating and it's moving forward, you know.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. I always love talking to you, and one of these we need a Kathy Hale cooking show.
Yeah, I can't wait to tell my kids that. But
I will sponsor it and get all the hard parts taken care
well, I'll sign off with remember to feed your body, move daily, and breathe.
of. That's right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kathy. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Bye bye.